Good morning, everybody. First of all, we made it to 10K, so feels amazing, man. But today's video, I want to talk about something a little bit different. So today's video, we're going to be talking about how to build trap defenses. I'm going to use one defense I have specifically, the one here on screen, to explain what a trap defense is, how to build it, and why it's effective. So just a quick rundown of what makes a defense good. There are usually three main things that make defenses strong. The first one is going to be multi-elements. Multi-elements allows you to make sure that you don't get your damage split too much and baited. Strip is really important, and then defense break. Those are the three main categories. We can talk about what makes siege defense good and viable later on in another video. This one specifically, I wanted to kind of show you guys how to build it because I will be changing it soon. So this was the defense that I ran in the semifinals of the Siege tournament against Say Swag again, which is currently the rank 2 number guild. So let's talk about it. So the first thing that makes defenses, trap defenses, is understanding what the counters are, right? So when you're playing against like a Molong, Molly, Savannah, the first thing that comes to mind is, well, bait the Molong damage from skill 3 and then split the damage onto from the Sav onto a different unit, right? So in this case, I would want to use a fire unit and a water unit. I want both of them to be tanky on minus whatever damage is important to them, and then make sure that they are able to kind of sustain through that. All right. When you look at Molly, Mo, Sav, yeah, Molly does have a decent amount of healing, but you can kind of overheal that and deal with it, so you can out-sustain this defense. Now, out-sustaining the defense, the first counter to out-sustaining the defense is this beautiful rune set right here. We like to call it the Destroy runes. So 2-set piece, enemy max HP minus 4% of 30% of damage dealt. So essentially the way Destroy runes work is when you deal damage to somebody, and I should have skilled up my Molong Kek. When you deal damage to somebody, you destroy a portion of their max HP up to a maximum of 60% of their max HP. So the max destroyed value is bringing a unit from 100% HP down to 60, and their total bar is now 40%. So this is really nice because it mitigates a lot of things like max HP scaling damage. It mitigates how much you can heal if it's max HP, and it really mitigates how much damage you can take from violent procs, right? If you're max 40% HP, somebody violent procs 3 times, you're probably dead regardless of how tanky you are, right? There's just so much free chip damage in that situation that it's going to be really, really tough for people to fight it. All right, so for my defense, to make it a trap defense, I actually ran Destroy on every single one of my units. Now, this is a fairly uncommon thing to see. Generally on Savannah and the Molly, you're going to see things like Nemesis or, like a focus set for more stats. But I found that running Triple Destroy was a really good counter to people who wanted to out-sustain my team. All right. So that was the first kind of main counter to make it a trap defense. If you brought in a really low damage support team that was meant to out-sustain, you're going to slowly destroy my HP, chip me down. The thing is, I have 3 people here, and the Molly is a damage dealer in this case, that are chipping your HP bars faster than you're chipping mine, right? If you're bringing in what would be the best counters would be like Fang, Lulu, Harmonia, Fang, Aaliyah, Velijul, things like that. You only really have 1, maybe 2 damage dealers, whereas for me, I have 3, right? So in accordance with that, in accordance with trying to push people faster with the Destroy runes, I also decided that in this comp, it's very rare that Molly gets targeted first. Almost always you're going to see people going down for that Savannah first because Savannah does have the really big nuke damage potential. Defense break comes up. Savannah skill 2 is a lot of damage. So in this case, what I did was I actually built my Molly on crit rate. So Molly has her max HP scaling on skill 1, which actually gives her a decent amount of damage. And so I also gave her crit because in this situation, if no one's attacking her and she's just hitting targets, she's going to go from dealing 1.5, 2k damage to maybe 4.5 to 5. Now, this may not seem like a lot, but if Molly procs 3 times, she's hitting you for 12 to 15k. That's a pretty significant amount of damage, and it actually does give Molly a lot of threat as well as kill potential. So as you can see, everyone here's on a lot of damage. For Molong, a lot of his damage comes from the fact that he multi-hits, so he's actually on full additional damage stats. Molly, we have plus water and recovery. And then Savannah, I also have plus water and increased accuracy on skill 3. So let's talk about why I chose to go plus water. And there's actually one more thing I could have changed here to make it a little more oppressive. I actually could have ran plus water on Molong's left side as well if I wanted them all to be targeting down. So if you go back to the beginning of the video where I talked about what the better counters are to this team, it's going to be double wind, water, or it's going to be wind, water, fire. If I run plus damage on every single unit, it's going to be a lot more damage output to that one unit you're trying to use to tank out the Sav, right? So if Sav brings the unit to a low enough HP pool and you don't have a dark unit to tank the Molly, Molly's going to start slapping away at that unit as well, right? So now you have Molly and Savannah attacking the water unit, both lowering its HP through destroy faster, as well as dealing enough damage to put it in kill range, right? If I ran it on the Molong as well, it would just be bonus damage for skill 2 potential. And if Savannah does manage to land a defense break on that unit and Molong can move before it's cleansed, Molong will target that unit. Molong will deal a ton of damage to it, right? So when it comes down to trap defenses, you have to think about what people are going to bring into you, and you have to pick one of the counters, right? There are going to be a lot of counters to every defense. For example, a really popular offense into this defense is going to be Galleon, Triana, Poseidon, right? If Poseidon doesn't glance on skill 3, if he gets the pushback, Triana skill 2 is guaranteed crit now if they have no buffs. So it's going to deal a lot of damage. It's going to cleave straight through. So for me, I went in accepting, if I get cleaved by that, we probably lose. If I get cleaved by, you know, Gemini Leah or Gemini Light Chun-Li, I'm probably going to lose. But that's okay, because those teams inherently take a risk. For Galleon teams, you need the defense breaks. For the Poseidon team, you need the pushback on Savannah. But overall, I'm okay with letting those by. So I didn't even try to build a counter for that, right? Effectively building a defense and effectively trapping a defense is about picking one counter that you know is going to be used into you and building completely against it. So if I wanted to run full minus light, triple HP on everyone, it's viable. If I wanted to run full minus water and make everyone like really tanky, that's very viable. If I wanted to run a Swift Savannah to catch people off guard who run slower teams with no will, that's also a viable potential. But for me, I chose to be the really high damage plus water counter because I knew a lot of people were going to bring things in like Tessa Lulu, Tessa Amelia. And I ended up getting a lot of wins on that. When it comes to the tournament, I believe this defense got 4 wins and 3 losses. So overall, in G3 Siege, getting like a 25-30% win rate on your defense is considered very good, right? This one actually overperformed and got over 50%. So when I talk about how to build trap defenses, I think this is a very good example because it actually had a very good track record against a very good guild. So the next thing I want to talk about is speed ticks. So I'm not going to go into super heavy detail about speed ticks, but essentially there are numbers where your speed... Okay, so there are numbers that you can hit on your speed where your units will gain full attack bar in X amount of distributions of attack bar. So attack bar is distributed left to right and then every single turn until someone hits 100, right? So if everyone's at 0, people will gain attack bar until they reach 100, right? If you are on 5 tick, that means 5 distributions of attack bar before you're going to have a turn. If you're on 6 tick, it's going to be 6. So in this case, my defense is built around the 6th tick, which is 239 speed after leader skills and towers. So I actually built mine on the tick, which means that it is on the tick. It is going to be 6 tick. But another way you can trap defenses is you can actually run them below the tick. And I know that sounds a little bit weird. Like, why would I want my units to be slower? Why would I not want them to move at the tick, etc.? And the reason for this is because some people rely on turn 2 teams and they expect you to be a certain speed. And if you're actually slower than them, you can be what's called outslowing the opponent, right? It's popular in RTA where if you challenge someone with speeds and then you end up running like quad will in a slow team and they're like, oh no, like what do? I outsped him and I can't control his whole team, right? I can only strip 2 of his wills. I can only reset 1 unit. You know, his whole team's going to get that full combo off. You can actually do something similar in Siege, but it's a little bit different than RTA. It's not quite like the quad will and then you just like obliterate the enemy, right? Because in Siege, it's completely AI based. You know, you're relying on your defense to do a lot of things that you would hope to do right, or at least maybe get lucky in some cases. So that is another way to trap people on defenses. One other defense that I want to talk about, and I will make a video specifically on this defense because I know how popular it is. But with Martina, Shaina, Triana, wrong Triana in this case, but something that I did in this defense specifically was I wanted to counter Lucians. So I ran everybody on minus wind. And they were tankier than this in this situation. I ran the Shaina on minus dark for people who were trying to use Bethany teams into it, so it can't get one shot, and minus wind on the Triana as well. But with the Triana, I actually ran a shield set on her so that I'd have enough HP for everyone to live. Right, the hardest counter to MST, in my opinion, if you have decent runes, is going to be Mirene Lucian, right? If you have a Mirene Lucian, you're most likely going to kill. You're getting 25% bonus damage. You have Lucian's amp, and you have attack buff, right? So I built a team, an MST, that was tanky enough to survive some people's Mirror and Lucians. And if they can't kill in the first turn, it's basically just a loss, right? My team's going to heal. They're going to get the AoE strip and then, or the AoE stun, and then probably kill the Lucian. So trying to figure out what the specific offense counter you want to make is how you build a trap defense, right? If I'm using MSTs and I want to fight people who are, running faster teams into me, right? They're greeting me with like Gemini, like Chun-Li or something, or they're greeting me with some sort of like quicker team. It's very viable to run a Swift Shaina, right? Swift Shaina has 103 base speed. I can put my Shaina up to like 325 speed or something like that. It's not a lot of people that are going to be running teams over 325, right? A lot of people are going to greed and run attack lead so that they can do enough damage. But overall, I just wanted to bring you guys this video, talk about how things work, and then I guess you could just leave comments below. You can let me know if things didn't make sense to you, if you want me to go into more detail with things. But I thought I would share this before I swap the runes, because normally, being in a Siege guild, I don't really want to give up my defense ideas. I don't want to give up the strategies that we're running in the guild. But now that the season's over and I'm going to be changing builds, I thought it would be an interesting thing to share to you guys because it did well. So if you like this video, let me know. Hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video. And I hope you look forward to how to counter MST video coming in the future.